During his 1796 farewell address, the then President George Washington said, however, political parties may now and then answer popular ends, but they are likely in the course of time and things to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be unable to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reins of government, destroying afterwards the very engines which have lifted them to unjust dominion. Washington back then knew what he was talking about. The Republican Party has become infected by such cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men who have done their very best to subvert the power of the people. Senator Rob Portman, a Republican from Ohio, is not running for re-election to the Senate because of this infection. House Republican Conference Chair Liz Cheney is under attack from her fellow caucus members because of this infection. Our fellow Americans stormed the halls of the U.S. Capitol because of this infection, but once seized by infection, the GOP must want to get better, and therein lies the rub. Like so many Republicans, I'm so fucking sick and tired of talking about saving a party that shows few signs of wanting redemption, which makes it increasingly hard to hold on to the tattered remnants of a once proud party. But indeed, since the insurrection, more than 30,000 Republican voters have dropped their affiliation with the Republican Party. But with many echoing the words of former Secretary of State Colin Powell, I can no longer call myself a fellow Republican. Well, for me, I don't support the Republican Party, but it's whoever wrote this article. But despite the pessimisms about the Grand Old Party, I believe its salvation can still be found in our guiding principles, which do not include putting kids in cages, spewing lies and conspiracies, and fermenting deadly insurrections. But for those Republicans who remain behind, it's time to focus on what it means to be a Republican. While former squatter Donald Trump spent 4 years trying to reshape as much of the Republican Party into his image as possible and failing, setting the rest on fire, I agree with Representative Adam Kinzinger from Illinois, who said there is a real split for the future of the party, and that epic battle has commenced. Now fucking bring it on. Americans are exhausted physically, emotionally, and spiritually, but are we too exhausted to address our wounds and unify behind our shared beliefs, sorry. But to truly unify, we must first be honest about what our nation is going through. Minds may be fogged over by the magnitude of any current event, but we need to dig deeper and not just fight for America, but define what it stands for and what it stands against. The Republicans must stop being stupid, which, well, that's going to be kind of hard to do because they are stupid. But first, we must be honest with ourselves. Republicans are standing in the way, but how do we begin to embrace a shared truth if 72% of the Republicans think that the presidential election was illegitimate and stolen? But even as we attack the deep lie of a stolen election, Republican members of the House and Senate continue to spread its nasty seeds among the American people. The only person who tried to steal the election was Donald Trump himself. He incited the insurrection, infused it with the vilest vinegar of poisonous lies, and then pumped it into the bloodstream of his sycophantic and bred followers. But perhaps worse, the Republican officials in Congress who swore an oath to uphold the Constitution supported it, excused it, and did the same, and they're still excusing it. And second, the Republicans must stop playing stupid, and that's not going to work because they're already stupid fucking already. But stop acting like you don't know what Trump and his sycophantic inbred supporters in Congress and across the country did and continue to do. The insurrectionists were asked to come to Washington by Trump himself, encouraged to be violent by Trump himself, and and basically and also supported by Trump in a seditious conspiracy that left 7 Americans dead in its wake. But meanwhile, there is growing concern that some Republicans in Congress aided and abetted the insurrection. If proven, they need to be held accountable. Even as the House of Representatives has impeached Trump for the second time and the Senate is now faced with a clarifying moment of truth and accountability, are the Republicans prepared to hold Donald Trump accountable? Obviously not. The fact that Trump is no longer in office is no excuse to avoid your constitutional responsibility, but at the very least, he should never be allowed to run for office ever again. See, Joe Biden will be a successful president if we allow him to be, but he is offering all of us an invaluable gift to unity, and we need to address the COVID-19 pandemic and economic stagnation for mainstream Americans, as well as to disinfect, cleanse, and apply the salve on our racial wounds. But we must address all the wounds to the body politic, and not just those visibly hemorrhaging the lifeblood of our democratic republic. Ultimately, the truth here and the fight is grounded into one simple question that has nothing to do with a partisan debate on issues, and the very survival of our democracy is directly and solely contingent on our collective answer. Do we still believe in America? It's on us to understand and answer exactly what that fucking question is asking. But the Republicans cannot heal themselves on the wounds that they've caused this great nation while clinging on to Donald Trump. So let's unite under our shared principles and without him. But let us reclaim our credibility and without him. But let us affirm our sources of inspiration and leadership as a party not of Trump but of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, Mitt Romney and Liz Cheney, and of men and women who still give a damn about the one thing that matters to and that's America. Because Donald Trump didn't give a shit about anything. So, yep.